USA.com.
Voters in Wisconsin deciding a key race for a state Supreme Court justice, now the most expensive judicial race ever held. ABC's Rachel Scott is in Milwaukee.
Not only will this establish the balance on the state Supreme Court, but also the outcome of this could have major implications for future rulings on everything from abortion rights to voting laws, election laws, and ultimately how the congressional maps could be redrawn in this state, which could impact control over the House of Representatives.
Voters in Florida casting ballots for two special elections that could have an effect on the GOP majority in the House. Attorney General Pam Bondi directing federal prosecutors to seek the death penalty against Luigi Mangione. He's facing charges of murdering healthcare CEO Brian Thompson outside a hotel in New York City.
Now, what's unusual here is that Pam Bondi's announcement came before Mangione's actually been indicted on federal charges. He has pleaded not guilty to state murder charges. He's charged by complaint in federal court with murder and stalking, but he has not yet been indicted. So this certainly does signal where the case is going, and it may give his defense a little bit of a jump.
ABC's Aaron Katursky. In Texas, state health officials say measles cases jumped by 22 since Friday, with 422 cases across the Lone Star State. That outbreak, which started in West Texas County, is spreading across the state. Health officials say the majority involve those who are unvaccinated. Michelle Franzen, ABC News.
Progressive presents Employee of the Month. Small Business Edition. Today's recipient from Terry's Tiny Homes, Terry. Sure, as the only employee of her company, Terry was probably the front runner, but saving money getting personalized discounts with a commercial auto quote from Progressive, well, that gave Terry the edge. Over Terry.
Terry, Terry.
Keep awkwardly
Terry,
chanting your own name, Terry. You deserve it. Woo! Be your own Terry. See if you could save in as little as 7 minutes at ProgressiveCommercial.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates. Discounts not available in all states or situations.
News Talk 610 AM and 102.1 FM. KVNU.
4:05 now at News Talk KVNU, and I'm Will Feelright with your headlines this hour. Well, the victim in that Washington City fatal stabbing that happened a week and a half ago has been identified as 47-year-old Andrea Mottram of Auburn, California. While police have not released her name officially, friends and family have been posting tributes online since her death more than a week ago. Mottram was originally from Romania and had resided in Northern California at the time of her death. Now, Iris Agus, a former registered behavioral technician who worked with Mottram and her family, said that hearing the news has been shocking. Agus said that the news of her death is slowly starting to circulate in and around the Auburn area, but information has been limited. Now, police have released the name of two minors that are considered to be persons of interest in the case, but no further details about their potential involvement have been shared with the public. In a family's GoFundMe account, they describe Mottram's passing as unexpected and are asking for help with her funeral expenses. Meanwhile, city officials in Logan are reminding the public that registration for spring and summer sports programs are underway now. Now, adults and youngsters can register to participate in various activities by going online to the Logan City's website. Now, those sports activities include softball leagues, girls fast-pitch softball, the Logan Flyers Track Club, along with the Spring Paddle Battle Pickleball Tournament, Super Sport League Ninjas competition, tennis lessons, youth baseball, and other events. Now, the Logan Parks and Recreation Department serves the leisure recreational needs of the community by offering lifelong experiences for men, women, and children. And did you see the pictures of that rock slide that destroyed a truck in Ogden Canyon over the weekend? Yeah, it turns out the truck was parked in a dirt area off the side of the highway and was unoccupied at the time. It happened early Sunday at around 11:45 a.m. Now, Sergeant Mike Alexander with the Utah Highway Patrol said the spring weather often can cause rocks to loosen and fall. Wyatt Woolley with the Utah Department of Transportation explained that while they do take preventative measures in the canyon, such as using netting, concrete barriers, and ditches to prevent rocks from reaching the road, there's only so much that they can do. UDOT is reminding the public that if they notice any dangerous rocks on the roadway, they should immediately contact authorities or dispatch to report the hazard. Well, snow flurries continuing through the rest of the afternoon as temperatures haven't really warmed up at all. We've been stuck in the mid to high 30s today. Now tonight we'll see overnight temperatures dropping into the low 20s. This chance of snow and rain will decrease over tonight and into tomorrow. But cold temperatures continuing, but we will start to warm up a little bit by Thursday into Friday as we hope to see a little bit of sunshine. And news and weather brought to you this hour by Napa Auto Parts, where the Case Lot oil sale going on right now at all of your locally owned Napa Auto Parts stores from Preston to Providence. And I'm Will Feelwright with your KVNU News headlines.
Ah, spring. That time of year when you turn up the heat in the morning and the air conditioner in the afternoon. If you're constantly adjusting your thermostat just to stay comfortable, it might be time to talk insulation. You see, today's insulation is superior to what they used to put in homes. Not only does it help regulate the temperature inside, but it can also slash your energy bills. Or maybe you just need to insulate your attic, garage, or a specific room. No problem. Call Cardall's Insulation, 755-5012. That's 755-5012.
Local news and the best talk. News Talk KVNU, 610 AM and 102.1 FM.
Disasters don't wait for a convenient time. When the unexpected strikes, call the trusted team at Blue Sky. Remember, Blue Sky is that same great ARS team you know and trust.
This is Tom with Blue Sky Restoration. When disaster strikes, whether it's a flood, fire, mold damage, or an unforeseen accident, Blue Sky will clean up, repair, and restore your home or business like it was before. No disaster is too big or too small. For all your restoration needs, you can trust our Blue Sky team.
Let's protect everyone in Utah working hard every day. HB 267 does not take away anyone's rights. It actually opens up more seats at the table than through just collective bargaining alone. Everyone deserves to be represented, and HB 267 does just that. When approached about the referendum to repeal HB 267, please decline to sign. For fact-based information on HB 267, what it does, what it doesn't do, and how your tax dollars are protected, go to declinetosignutah.com.
Paid for by Americans for Prosperity Utah, not authorized by any political issues committee.
I'm Larry Gelwicks, the Getaway Guru. Join me on The Travel Show every Saturday at 11 a.m., and I'll tell you where to go and how to get there with the best travel deals on the planet, including how to travel more and pay less, free this and free that promotions, and insider secrets on what the airlines, cruise lines, and hotels don't want you to know, along with your call-in travel questions every Saturday, 11 a.m., right here on News Talk 610 KVNU.
KVNU's For the People with Jason Williams and Bill Walter.
And it is Utah known as the fraud capital of the world. Not because we have more people committing fraud, but because we have so many people falling for it.
Going beneath the headlines and connecting you to the newsmakers.
The radio is a great way to get the word out to a lot of people in an emergency. So we thank you for your help and being a partner with us.
For the People on News Talk KVNU, 610 AM, 102.1 FM. Online at 610kvnu.com and on the KVNU mobile app.
Welcome to KVNU's For the People. It is Tuesday, April 1st. I promise everyone on the show today we will not talk about, we'll talk about April Fool's jokes, but I won't try and sell anything that is an April Fool's joke as actual news. Anything we talk about on the show today did actually happen, even if it might feel like an April Fool's joke. We'll get to some of those headlines in hour 2 of today's show. This is a big opportunity for us here in hour 1 because, one, in the studio with us is one of our favorite guests, and also with him, he brought a friend, and we are going to be talking about something that in very direct and indirect ways is in the headlines nationally, statewide, and even here in Cache Valley on a regular basis the last several weeks. And that is the general topic of refugees, immigrants, resettlement programs, and more. Here in Cache Valley for a long time now, refugees and immigrants and those in resettlement programs have benefited from an organization we refer to as CRIC, the Cache Refugee and Immigrant Connection. And they do some amazing work helping families with everything from getting driver's licenses so they can drive themselves to work to finding that work in the first place. And we've talked before on the show about how difficult it is for most of us to imagine what it would feel like to leave your home country, the only place you'd ever known, for your own personal safety, and your family's safety, spend between 2 and 4 years in a refugee camp in many situations, waiting for the opportunity, and then finally you get it. And through these resettlement programs, suddenly you find yourself living in Logan, Utah, learning a new language, learning a new culture, and all of the challenges that come along with that. That's what the Cash Refugee and Immigrant Connection is all about, facilitating that process and helping these families out. So joining us here in the studio, the interim executive director of the Cash Refugee and Immigrant Connection, former state lawmaker Dan Johnson, and with him, director of programs at CRIC, Virginia Schmid. And to both of you, appreciate you making the time for this today. It's obviously a complex process, resettlement, that we probably wouldn't be able to really do justice here on the radio show unless we spent maybe a couple of shows stepping through the process. But both of you agreed to come in and give it a shot today, right?
Always.
Whoops, sorry, I have the wrong mics on.
Oh.
I'm new. Okay, try that again.
Yeah. Well,
so thank you to both of you for coming in to do this. I know it's a difficult process to explain.
It really is, Jason. And Virginia and I are really glad to be here. And thank you for making some time in your important show for us today. I've always appreciated you so much, and you know that.
Oh, it's always been a pleasure to have you in. And I have to say this before we start, Dan. First off, it's hard to refer to you as Dan. It's always been Representative Johnson. But I have to say, after watching the last legislative session, I'm glad you're enjoying retirement and that you're now keeping busy with the Cash Refugee and Immigrant Connection. But I miss seeing you there on Capitol Hill. I think you were a temperate voice that kind of dialed things down a little bit. And Cache Valley lawmakers are always good for that. But I'm glad you got out.
Thanks a lot. I'm unscathed.
Unscathed, yeah. I'm glad you got out unscathed.
We're grateful he's there too.
Oh, I'll bet. Yeah. Virginia, honestly, Dan is known as a very effective person. And Dan, I know for you as a lawmaker, the world of the nonprofit world, if you will, you're no stranger to that whatsoever.
Yeah, that's correct. I've really been concerned about that, whether it's the Family Place or CAPSA or the Food Pantry or the Little Lambs Foundation,
sure.
The Humanitarian Center. We have so many great places that do work for people who have needs, and nonprofits can meet those needs in ways that government can't and probably shouldn't. So I always ask the question, Jason, where would people go? What would happen to them if it weren't for nonprofits?
Sure. And as you mentioned, that applies to anyone you could possibly mention, but probably none more so. I've always felt this. Two examples of where would people be without nonprofits that stand out to me here in Cache Valley are CAPSA and CRIC, the Cash Refugee and Immigrant Connection, because these are two nonprofits that do some very specific work that really isn't being done elsewhere and by anyone else, but also is so key to people enjoying even a minimum quality of life and being able to go on with their lives after, as I attempted to do in my setup, I honestly cannot imagine what a lot of these folks go through. And we're talking families with young children sometimes. Yeah. And to find yourself, I grew up in Logan, Utah, and it's confusing to me sometimes still. But I can't imagine, again, spending years in a refugee camp after sort of being forced out of your home country, usually not by choice, but because of conditions on the ground or things that are happening there, wars and things like that. There are also, political refugees that have to leave for their own safety. Spend all those years, in many cases, sitting in a refugee camp waiting for an opportunity, and then you get the opportunity finally, and then boom, here you are in Logan, Utah, trying to figure out how to reestablish your life at that point. Yeah. I can't imagine the feeling.
Well, you've just really captured the essence of that whole thing really well. I'll tell you, I'll give you an example of the differences between what happens. When I have the opportunity to mentor two boys in one of the local high schools, and I go meet with them each week. And that family escaped from Syria, and the Assad regime, and they were in a camp in Lebanon for 9 years.
Wow.
Before a country somewhere in the world would take them. So they came to the United States through resettlement. They had all their background checked, and they go through very rigorous checking, and so they're here legally, and they're here and now they got to go through resettlement, and I think Virginia will talk about that here in just a minute. But they went through resettlement. I've been helping the boys get a job, and I go out and check on them each week. They've never been late to school. They've never been late to class. They're getting straight A's and B's in all their subjects. They're doing that, and they're trying, and their family, their dad has a job. They have a place to live. All of that is happening for them. And so from a camp, they've come here. They've had that happen to them.
Sure.
Then all of a sudden, a resettlement was canceled. There were people waiting to come to Logan, Utah. So it's like a thud, isn't it? They don't get to come.
Sure.
And that's the difference between them and what's happened to this particular family that has gone through resettlement through CRIC as a resettlement, a part of our community. And so it's been for those folks, they're just like what you were talking about. Can't imagine what that's like. Me either, But I know one thing is that this family has a chance in life. I'm not sure what will happen to the other ones that don't get to come.
And we're talking, some of the information you brought with you. So the Cash Refugee and Immigrant Connection knows of at least almost 60 people, and we're talking families, young children, and more that were either were close to getting their travel plans or had them even, and then with the resettlement suspension, that rug is yanked out from underneath them. They don't know what's going to happen to them now, right?
Yeah, a lot of the families we had who were booked for travel as well as were waiting for their travel date are now kind of stuck in limbo in a third country that's not their own. And the overseas organizations have also, in a lot of ways, been shut down and are not as functional as they were before. And so there's a lot of uncertainty and unsafety for those families who were supposed to come this year.
That is... And what boggles me about this is that the Cash Refugee and Immigrant Connection stands as proof that this can be done. Whatever word you want to use. I know a popular word right now that for some reason has always struck me as too cold, but I guess it fits, is cultural assimilation is a phrase that you see thrown around a lot, especially on social media. Mm-hmm. The Cash Refugee and Immigrant Connection literally makes that possible, right? These folks who... even young children who have known nothing but another country and years in a refugee camp find themselves in Logan, Utah, and CRIC comes in and says, okay, here's how to live in Logan, Utah. Here's how to work in Logan, Utah. And with 100% success rate, right? Yeah. I mean, as far as I know, this has never failed.
No, I mean, we've always been able to help our clients. We have several different programs that help them through really the first 5 years of their lives in the U.S. to help them be as successful and self-sufficient as possible. And obviously there's challenges related to health or,
Sure.
job applications and everyone looking for a job. But all of our clients have been able to successfully at least take care of themselves and have a sustainable life, which we're grateful to be a part of.
That is, for listeners, I want to throw this out as well. You can support the work of the Cash Refugee and Immigrant Connection at cashrefugees.org. They do depend on both grants and donations from individuals. Businesses, though, also can help in a lot of different ways, from being a business sponsor to, and this is where I was headed with this, I've always been encouraged to hear all the local businesses that work with CRIC making partnerships, I guess, if you will, for employment, right? There are a lot of businesses that step up and say, we would like to hire these folks when they're able to work. And that helps, right? I mean, there's nothing more stabilizing than a paycheck, right?
Absolutely. And these individuals want to work. And
Sure.
We find from feedback that we get, we have an employment specialist that works with the different business corporations and businesses around the valley in assisting people get jobs. But man, I'll tell you what, this local community is great. I mean,
that's always made me proud.
You can't ask for a better place for somebody to land and for people to be more welcoming than Cache Valley is to these folks who are in need.
That is, and the Refugee and Immigrant Connection here in Cache Valley, as I understand it, you also work with lifelong residents of the valley as sort of liaisons, or I don't know what the right word would be, that will sort of adopt these families and help embrace them in their own communities. That's all volunteer, right? These are folks that from here in the valley that come to you and say, we'd also like to help. And that's always made me proud that happens.
Yeah, I've been really proud of our volunteer program. We have 67 and counting volunteers. Like it's been amazing, and our volunteers really have made our program so much better. We couldn't do it without the people who come and are willing to support and help our clients. It's been fantastic.
That is amazing.
You know, Jason, I might add a little bit more to that, because it's just what Virginia just said really matters. And we couldn't do our work if it wasn't for volunteers.
Sure.
So we talk about fundraising and all of that, but one of the ways those costs get offset is by this. We recruit volunteers, we give them onboarding, we get them to one of our managers.
Sure.
They train those volunteers, and then the volunteers come and they meet face-to-face with our clients. And that's what they want to do. They become very good at it. So when we follow that process, we have volunteers who come, they have something to do, they love it because they're making a difference in the life of somebody who needs a difference made for them. And so anyway, I really appreciate Virginia because she's one of the persons who really helps with the volunteer program, because she oversees those programs. And she makes sure those volunteers get to the places where they need to be, giving the assistance that they need to give. So I'm really proud of her, I got to tell you.
It's honestly, if you look at, the list, and you guys have made this easy for me here, but with some bullet points, but you can see this at the cacherefugees.org website as well. But volunteers are involved in everything from driver's license tutoring, to direct client services, i.e. getting, folks connected with, maybe it's Bragg, maybe it's just helping them get certain licenses or even just, filling out the forms to rent an apartment. There's a job club that they run on an ongoing basis for more skilled volunteers, interpretation and translation, and obviously volunteer needs in the fundraising, advocacy, and housing. Of course, for these refugees and immigrants working through the CRIC system and the resettlement system. CacheRefugees.org again. And before we go to our news break, can you, and either of you can take this one, but can you let listeners know, who are we talking about here? What, if you have an example of someone, where they came from, why they ended up in the resettlement program, because I find a lot of people have some misconceptions about this, that it's just, they just wanted out of a place they didn't like living. That's usually not the case, right? This is a far more dire situation they find themselves in.
I'll make a brief statement and then turn some time to Virginia. So we know that because of unrest in certain parts of the world, we have had a lot of people from Afghanistan come in legally. We've had people from Venezuela, and I want to emphasize, come in legally.
Sure.
Central America, South America.
This is a rigorous
and
program,
other countries around the world.
Super rigorous.
So, So I want to make sure that is very clear to our listeners today on your show that, boy, those people were escaping. Maybe their life was saved by escaping, or at least prison, or whatever. I mean, it was not a good situation. And the same thing happening in several African countries.
True.
So, Virginia, maybe you'd like to say more about that.
I mean, I can very much say none of our clients want to leave their home. That has been always something I've heard. I was a case manager before I became the director, so I worked hands-on with our clients, and all of them were devastated to leave what they knew and what they loved. And it really wasn't a choice. And I can think of a few. We have clients from Ukraine who left their homes because of the war there. We've had clients from the Democratic Republic of Congo who left because of the civil war.
Horrible conditions
Horrible
there.
things happening there that they just needed to get away with their kids and their lives and hopefully come here. And I will say a lot of our clients from Africa usually wait even longer than a lot of clients. I've had clients who waited 10 years to come.
Really?
And they've just been waiting in a refugee camp.
Oh, wow.
And so it's a hard place that they're coming from, and they're coming from a place where they've experienced a lot of trauma. A refugee is usually someone who's fleeing because their life is in danger.
Sure.
Because of their belief, their religion, their gender, it can be so many different things.
Their race.
Especially. And so a lot of our clients, actually all of our clients are coming because if they don't, they have the risk of not being.
Their lives are at stake. Their children's lives are.
Exactly.
For listeners, if you want some visualization of what we're talking about here, I found it finally before the show today, and I have linked to it on our Facebook page. But Holly Richardson, former state lawmaker, Republican lawmaker, turned, actually, she was a student for years and has her PhD now, but she's a columnist for the Deseret News. And several years ago, she and others here in Utah had an opportunity to go work in a refugee camp in Greece. And she was there for about 6 months, and she documented it all in sort of a photo journal that the Deseret News published. And I've linked to that. It's several years old, but it's a photo journal of what we're talking about when we talk refugee camp, the conditions that these families are living in for often years, as you just heard, up to 9 years in one case. And then through organizations like CRIC, the Cash Refugee and Immigrant Connection, they are able to finally make their way to places like Cache Valley and become, big contributions to our valley and our culture, and fill much needed jobs as well, and find a much safer. And if you grew up here, very nice place to live. once you get used to the winters, I would assume. But we're talking about CRIC, the Cash Refugee and Immigrant Connection, with our guests here in the studio again, former state lawmaker, Republican lawmaker Dan Johnson, who is now serving as the interim executive director of the Cash Refugee and Immigrant Connection, and Virginia Schmid, who is director of programs at CRIC. And you can learn more about the organization, donate, volunteer, even just research some of the stories they have to tell of refugees as well at cashrefugees.org. And stick around. More with our guests here in the studio right after these headlines with KVNU's Bill Walter.
Well, thank you, Jason. A 22-year-old man from southern Utah has been arrested for allegedly grabbing the backpack of an auto technician at a Logan service station and then using a stolen credit card to make almost $1,000 in purchases, according to law enforcement. Levi Jason Black was booked Friday following a traffic stop by a Logan City police officer. Now, according to the arrest paperwork, police were called to the local auto mechanic shop on report of the theft on Wednesday. One of the employees reported their backpack had been stolen. It contained their wallet. Now, security camera footage showed the alleged suspect, later identified as Black, walking into the garage and asking employees for a job. He was then seen walking into the bathroom and grabbing the backpack while leaving. Now, the suspect appeared to be a Hispanic male with short black hair, wearing a gray shirt and black pants, according to court documents. Now, on Friday, police officers initiated a traffic stop on a vehicle and identified Black as the passenger. He was reportedly intoxicated and had several warrants for his arrest in other cases out of Arizona. Now, officers questioned Black about the theft. He reportedly denied being at the auto mechanic shop, but later admitted to taking the backpack. And while it may seem like the smoke has just barely cleared from the 2024 presidential election, it's nevertheless time to start looking forward to another municipal season election that'll be coming up this next fall for the city of Logan and other communities throughout the valley. Now, Logan will be holding its municipal election this fall to elect 2 council members and its mayor. Now, the at-large seats that are up for grabs are currently held by incumbent council members Amy Anderson and Ernesto Lopez. Now, Logan's incumbent mayor is, of course, Holly Daines. Now, the local window for candidate filing will be June 2nd through June 6th. Now, with more than 2 months to go until the filing deadline, none of those incumbents or other potential candidates have yet indicated whether they plan to throw their hats in the ring. And an 18-year-old was arrested on several charges over the weekend, including felony automobile homicide, after allegedly driving under the influence and crashing his vehicle in Tooele County, killing his 16-year-old passenger. Now, the accident occurred early Sunday morning about 3 a.m. along State Road 36. According to law enforcement, the pickup truck was traveling when it veered off of the road, rolled, and ejected both occupants. Now, 2 law enforcement personnel, a deputy and a trooper, responded to that crash. The 16-year-old passenger was given CPR and life-saving measures, but later was pronounced dead at the scene. As troopers were interviewing the driver, Jackson Douglas David Wood, they noticed that he appeared to show signs of intoxication. Investigators also say they later found open containers of alcohol in the crash debris. Well, we've had another wild afternoon, a mix of snow flurries, some showers, clouds, and even some sunshine breaking through those clouds from time to time. It's all what Mother Nature, I guess, calls a really nasty April Fool's joke. And it's going to continue through the rest of the afternoon as temperatures just not warming up at all, as we've stayed in the high 30s today. Tonight, we're going to drop into the low 20s. Going to get quite cold tonight. That chance of snow will decrease as we head into tomorrow, as we'll see cloudy skies still, temperatures around the mid-40s, and then we'll start to see some sunshine breaking through more on Thursday and into Friday, and it looks like the weekend still looking really nice with temperatures back into the mid to high 50s, low 60s. And news and weather this hour brought to you by Bell Sculpt, helping to transform your look and give you that look you've always dreamed of. It's Bell Sculpt, and I'm Will Feelright with your KVNU News headlines.
ABC News, I'm Michelle Franzen. President Trump expected to announce a new round of global tariffs tomorrow at a ceremony, and now he's urging Republican senators to support his plan. Democrats, led by Senator Tim Kaine, are pushing for a possible vote to block Canada tariffs, saying the president is falsely claiming a fentanyl crisis that involves Canada. Kaine says Americans will pay the biggest price if those tariffs go through.
We're here to stop a huge national sales tax being imposed on Americans through these Canadian tariffs that are based on a fake Canadian emergency.
Massive layoffs underway in the Department of Health and Human Services. 10,000 jobs are expected to be cut. Voters in Florida and Wisconsin deciding key races today that could determine the balance of the state's Supreme Court in Wisconsin and the majority of the House. Another major storm packed with winds and torrential rain could bring flooding later this week to parts of the Midwest and South. This is ABC News.
The bugs love the good weather. I'm guessing you have a bunch of those creepy crawlers waiting patiently to come into your cozy home. Let Logan Extermination take care of those unwanted pests with a monthly exterior spray. Now, for a limited time, they'll spray your home's exterior monthly from April to October for only $65 per month for a 2,000 square foot or less home. Call Logan Extermination before your home becomes enemy territory. Logan Extermination, 752-8450.
From ABC News, Wall Street now. Even with President Trump's so-called Liberation Day, with tariffs looming, markets ending the day mixed. The Dow lost 12 points. The S&P gained 21. The Nasdaq added 151 points. President Trump is expected to enact his tariffs on Wednesday. Several reports say he's considering a 20% flat tariff rate. Employers posted 7.6 million job openings in February, a sign that the job market is slowing but remains healthy. Johnson & Johnson dropped 7% after a bankruptcy court judge denied the company's settlement plan related to baby powder containing talc. It's the third time the company's attempt to resolve the baby powder settlement through bankruptcy has been rejected by the courts. On the winning end, PVH jumped 18% after the company behind the Calvin Klein and Tommy Hilfiger brands reported a stronger profit for the latest quarter than analysts expected. Michelle Franzen, ABC News.
Get your cooling fixed, call Gary Riggs. Get your AC fixed, call Gary Riggs. If you're having cooling problems, we're here to get them fixed. Just pick up the phone and call Gary Riggs. 435-512-6633. We'll come to you. Our service fee is low, just $25. We repair all brands and have certified installers. Get your cooling fixed, call Gary Riggs. Get your AC fixed, call Gary Riggs.
Hi, this is Gordon Deal. Wednesday on This Morning, America's First News. Investors, business owners, lawmakers, and plenty of American trading partners await President Trump's Liberation Day tariff announcement. Also, student loan borrowers could see their credit scores nosedive not long after they skyrocketed during the COVID payment pause. And is this the year for deliberate mistakes on your tax return? Wednesday on This Morning, America's First News. From 4 to 6 on News Talk KVNU, 610 AM and 102 FM. Your station for news and talk.
You know love makes the world go round, and love.
Welcome back to KVNU's For the People. Here in hour one of today's show, we're talking about CRIC, the Cache, Refugee and Immigrant Connection. This is a nonprofit that's operated here in Cache Valley for more than 10 years now. And their job, if you will, as a nonprofit is to serve refugees and immigrants who have made their way to Cache Valley through resettlement programs as legal immigrants and are now in the business of trying to adjust to having left their home for reasons usually almost always outside of their control, including, war-torn countries, areas where it's just not safe for them to live. Some of these people are political refugees as well, meaning someone comes into power in their country of home origin, and that person is now in the business of ethnically cleansing certain cultural or even religious factions. That's how a person ends up in the refugee resettlement program. It can take years, even a decade or more, for them to make their way to places like Cache Valley through the program. And then once here, they have a lot of challenges, including language barriers, just learning the culture and the rules, how to find a job, and more. And CRIC, the Cache, Refugee and Immigrant Connection, basically serves that purpose, working with a team of volunteers and more. They help people reestablish roots in a new place, become contributing members of our community. And I've had the pleasure over the years myself to meet several refugees who have been through the resettlement program. And I have to say, more so than most of the people my age who grew up here in Cache Valley, these were folks whose joy at being in Cache Valley outshined all of the rest of us. We take so much for granted here. I remember talking to a young man, early 20s, from I believe Sudan. I don't remember for sure now, but I remember I asked him, what's it like to no longer see your home? And I remember him just kind of gesturing at the mountains that were still snow-capped, but it was a nice warm spring day, and he said, "This place is beautiful, and my family is alive." And this big smile on his face as he said it. And that was the first time I realized most of us have no idea what this experience is like. And Dan, as a state lawmaker for years on Capitol Hill, you got to see kind of a technical side of this, which is a goal for all of these refugees and immigrants to at a certain point achieve naturalization, citizenship.
Yeah.
And the Cache, Refugee and Immigrant Connection also works people towards that goal. And you got to be a part of the actual naturalization ceremonies that would happen at the Capitol, right? As a lawmaker?
I did. I'm glad you brought that up, Jason. I had read the tests that people take, and I had read the oath that people are given when they go through naturalization and citizenship, but I'd never seen it administered before. And I was invited to speak to the group, and so there I was up on this platform in the rotunda of the state capitol, and before me were about 500 people.
Wow.
Seated, and with different sorts of clothing on, different colors of skin, and there were 148 of those people who were getting their citizenship that day. The rest of the people were their friends and family that came to watch it. And they raised their hands, and the oath was given. They repeated it, and then they swore allegiance to the United States of America. And then, when they got finished, those 148 people took out a small American flag and waved it. It was remarkable, and it was life-changing. I've had the opportunity to go a lot of places and to do lots of things. I'm so blessed in my life. But that was one of the highlights ever of all the things I've ever witnessed. It was remarkable.
And again, to keep in perspective that for many people, this is that naturalization process, that becoming a United States citizen event, the ceremony that takes place is the end of sometimes decades worth of work.
Yes,
for them, to achieve this goal, all in trying to keep their family safe and alive in many situations. It's honestly, it's amazing work. And what surprises me, because I know a little bit behind the scenes at CRIC, what surprises me is how much the Cash Refugee and Immigrant Connection gets done on a tiny little budget. That is honestly shocking, because we're talking, tens, if not over the years, a few hundred families who have been able to put roots down, get jobs, buy or rent a home, and establish life here in Cache Valley, become members of our communities. And that wouldn't have been possible without CRIC and CRIC's team. And yet we're not talking a few $100,000 a year here, right? This is a completely dependent on community support and the handful of grants that can be applied for and made available. And for listeners, again, you can support the work of the Cache Refugee and Immigrant Connection, learn more about how to volunteer, become a business sponsor, even a business affiliate when it comes to hiring and employment, cashrefugees.org. And how do you do this? I mean, that's a big general question, but how do you do it on a shoestring budget? I assume that to some extent it's possible to plan like every nonprofit does, to have a 5-year goal of growth and services you're going to offer. But then the world events dictate a lot of this, right?
Yeah. We definitely have to, especially in the current period of time, we definitely have to learn how to roll with the punches as
sure.
As you said, we have a lot of, we have funds that are from the government that have unfortunately been put on pause. And so we've been trying to get more creative with the funds that are remaining through donations and the remaining grants that have been utilized. And a lot of it comes through our volunteers. If there's gaps that we can't quite fill with our employees, then we use our volunteers or partnerships with other organizations. We have a strong partnership with Family Place, CAPSA, with the food pantry. A lot of the nonprofits and governmental organizations here help us a great deal in making sure our clients don't miss the chance to have the services they need to be successful.
Sure.
Jason, I just add to that, in the federal funding, we lost over $350,000.
Wow.
So we're not talking about little insignificant amounts of money. But I've promised our 28 employees who provide all this variety of services to these people that they're going to have a job. We're going to find a way to work our way through this.
Because the work doesn't go away.
The work does not go away.
They still need help.
Yeah, regardless of that is, and I think it's worth pointing out to listeners too that organizations, throughout Utah, like the Cache Refugee and Immigrant Connection, the goal here is independence, right? The philosophy is kind of, look, you get them through the first few weeks, the first few months, even in some cases, especially where young children are involved, the first few years, and then they're independent. They take it from there and go about their lives as members of our community. That's one of the most fascinating things, right? That is the end goal of all this, is that you're actively trying to work yourselves out of jobs, right?
Yeah.
If you're successful, your clients no longer need you. That's the point, right?
Yeah. And I think that I want to go back to the point you made where a lot of our clients are just happy to be here and have safety. I had a client from Venezuela who she and I were talking, and I was teaching her how to ride the bus and how to get her kids to the school through the city bus or through the school bus.
Oh, okay.
And
see, we don't think of that being a new concept, but for many refugees, it is entirely new.
Yeah, and so I was telling her how her oldest, who was in high school, would use the city bus to get to school. And she looked at me in shock, and she's like, "Can I go to work while they're in school?" And I was like, "Yeah, you can go to work. That's fine. They'll just come back after they're done." She, back in Venezuela, could never go to work because she was so worried her kids would get harmed on the way to school. So she always had to make sure she was available in case anything happened. And to her, that was just astounding, and she was excited. And that's kind of the thing that drives us forward, is helping our clients not only have that safety, but then the self-sufficiency and independence to do it on their own without us.
Sure.
And like you said, sell it, kind of get rid of our job for at least that client.
Sure. That's right, because there will always be new folks in need, and always a need for the Cash Refugee and Immigrant Connection. But I've always thought that was unique, that when you're dealing with a nonprofit whose job it is to make sure their clients never have to call them again one day. That's the goal. and that's, to me, that's the best work. This is a great question from a listener on the chat here, and one that I have as well. But if people want to help, but they've only got an hour a week, or they've only got a little bit of time once a month, something like that, where should they start? Should they just reach out at contact information at cashrefugees.org and inquire, and if there's use for them, you'll find them a spot?
Yeah, so there's so many ways they can contribute to our organization. Obviously, you always have you can like our stuff, you can subscribe to our pages on social media and share our content so it spreads out information about our clients and what we do. You can donate at our website. We always accept, no matter the donation, we are happy. We've had a donor who has continually given us monthly contributions of small amounts that we greatly appreciate. They make a difference for us.
Sure.
And you can always do volunteer work. Like we talked about before, we have volunteers who come in. And really, for a volunteer, you only need to dedicate an hour to 3 hours a week in helping us. We do prefer to have more longer-term clients who can be onboarded and help with our programs, so 6 months or more or so. But we also have a lot of events we do. We have different ways that you can contribute. So you can always go to our interest form. We have different jobs that you can help with: the adult literacy, you can help with financial literacy, you can help with case management, walk-in hours. There's so many different ways you can do that. And like we've talked about before the break, our volunteers really make our organization great.
Sure. And you mentioned financial literacy there. That's intriguing to me, because that is also part of adjusting to a new culture. But there's so many of us who grew up here in Utah our entire lives that could use a good financial literacy class now and then. But this is standard education through CRIC, right?
We had one of the coolest things happen just on that topic here about 3 weeks ago, I think it was. We had 26 people graduate and pass through our financial literacy class.
That's amazing.
And one was a child, all the way up to people who were older. And I thought, as I was handing computers to each of the people, and these were donated to us, Comcast, they got a certificate and a computer. And I thought, I wonder how many people in Cache Valley have ever taken a financial literacy class.
I know.
But these people are well on their way to being self-sufficient, like you were mentioning before.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I know. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. To add on to the financial literacy class, also a lot of our clients are entrepreneurs. They want to start their own businesses, start their own restaurants. And the nice thing is, after they finish the financial literacy class, we have a small business class that they can take afterwards. Really? That then can help them.
That's very cool.
I know. It can help them then start making steps towards starting their own business.
Yeah. That is amazing. And keep in mind that the Cash Refugee and Immigrant Connection is working with, we're talking folks who have, through the resettlement programs, come here legally, with legal status and with a work permit, and are on their way to naturalization and full citizenship, but they need assistance as they first arrive from war-torn countries, from other parts of the world where it has become unsafe for they and their family, young children in a lot of cases, to live. And they find themselves in this new place with a lot of new customs and rules, and the Cash Refugee and Immigrant Connection helps them begin the process of adjusting. And you can help with the pause of resettlement program funds and more. There's a lot up in the air right now for organizations like CRIC and other nonprofits in the Valley as well. So please, now more than ever, they could use your support, whether it's volunteering time, donating even $10 cashrefugees.org is their website, and we'll keep the conversation going here on the other side of our last break with our guests here in the studio again, former state representative, now interim executive director of the Cash Refugee and Immigrant Connection, Dan Johnson, and director of programs at CRIC, Virginia Schmid. And we'll be back with more right after this.
News Talk 610 AM, 102.1 FM, KVNU.
Set sail with Princess Cruises for unforgettable destinations, luxury amenities, and world-class service. From the Caribbean to Alaska to Europe and Asia, every Princess Cruise is a dream come true. Book your cruise today with Morris Columbus Travel, your vacation experts. Visit morriscolumbus.com.
Come on and get away, Morris Columbus.
Have you been looking for a way to spruce up your home with some green? Anderson Seed and Garden has an answer for you. Learn how to build a live pansy wreath from the experts and Andersons. The class is Saturday, April 5th at 3 p.m. and the cost is $45, which includes all the supplies you need to make a beautiful living pansy wreath on an 18-inch frame. Call the store or go to AndersonSeedandGarden.com for details. Build your own pansy wreath at Anderson Seed and Garden, 69 West Center, Logan.
News Talk KVNU will bring you the Saturday and Sunday sessions of General Conference for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. The conference will air Saturday and Sunday from 10 until noon and 2 till 4. Listen live at 102 FM, 610 AM, and online at kvnutalk.com and on the KVNU mobile app. General Conference is provided as a public service of News Talk KVNU, the voice of Northern Utah.
Welcome back to KVNU's For the People. Wrapping up our hour here with very special guests in the studio. Former state lawmaker, now interim executive director of the Cash Refugee and Immigrant Connection, Dan Johnson, and director of programs at the Cash Refugee and Immigrant Connection, Virginia Schmid. And to both of you, thank you for being here. Only 5 minutes left. Have we left anything on the table that people should know about CRIC, about the Refugee Resettlement Program, to inspire people to get involved?
Well, I appreciate that question, and I'll tell you, I think there are three things that really would make a difference for us. And in the interim, because of the pulling away of funds, we're in need for people to help us out. So we need help to cover the cost of the lost contract money that we previously had. It will help us diversify funding resources through grant writing and also through gift development. So any gifts that we get now will help us be better at that. And it'll help us with expanding our community engagement and donor development. So there are some things that we can do, I think, that will help us reach out to community people. I will tell you, Jason, that because of what's happened, we're going to have to lean into the community and ask them to help us more than we've ever asked them before.
Sure.
Because of what's happened, I will just tell it you this way. I think that CRIC has to get to a place where we, through our grant writing and our fundraising efforts and for reaching out to people, we are going to have to be more self-sustaining that way than we are to rely upon government, federal government grants. I think we need to get away from that and center ourselves right here with these people, with these needs right now.
That is, it's interesting because the language you're using there, Dan, reminds me of the actual mission of the Cash Refugee and Immigrant Connection for your clients, if you will, these people through coming to America through legally through the resettlement programs. The goal there is also, integration, of course, but economic self-sufficiency. And so the organization, practicing that same thing is why I think CRIC has had so much success over the years. But and for listeners out there, it's not just the Cash Refugee and Immigrant Connection either. This is affecting CAPSA, the food bank. You've seen the headlines from our own news team. So, if you can step up in any way, even if it's an hour once a month, if it's $10, $20, every little bit is going to help, right?
Yeah, and another way you can really help that might be more creative than you think is hosting a third-party fundraising event for CRIC.
Oh, wow.
That's something that we've started out doing. We actually had a community member do a cookie dough selling event. And they made.
I'm sad I missed that.
I know, it was great. Well, and they made, I think it was like $300 and donated it to CRIC, and it was awesome. And then even last year, some of our employees' children did a lemonade stand and just.
Oh, how nice!
And they made, I think it was somewhere between $50 to $100 and donated that, and it was just a great contribution that helped out our organization because. I mean, it seems like $300 wouldn't go far, but $300 could pay someone's utilities.
Sure.
Could pay for a week's worth of groceries.
And that's huge for these families,
yeah,
right?
Yeah, it's huge. And so, I mean, if you need ideas or you have ideas for fundraising, you can always contact us through our website and get involved that way. If you're not wanting to do volunteer or anything like that and you want to get more involved in the fundraising, that is also an option. That would be great.
This is such a fascinating conversation, and we should do this again soon because I'm sure the news and the situation on the ground is going to change several times over by the time a month has passed. But for listeners, cashrefugees.org, you can also, as Virginia mentioned, connect with them on social media to learn a lot more about getting involved and a lot more about the Cash Refugee and Immigrant Connection in general, from their mission to how they do the work that they do on social media, both Facebook and Instagram. I've linked to all of this on our Facebook page as well, if you'd like to find it there if you're driving now. And one more time, it's cashrefugees.org, the website. Get involved. If you can't get involved right now financially or with your time, totally understand. But spread the word on this because the work they do is so key and means the world to these families who find themselves here in Cache Valley looking to set down roots and make a life here. Help them out. Cashrefugees.org. Thanks again to our guests, Dan and Virginia. Thank you for